Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 11th school board meeting for Pottsgrove School District. We have quite a lot of visitors tonight. Very happy to see that, and for the reason for that. We know that we'll be alone again after item 3.3, but for the short term, we appreciate everybody's presence here, and I'd like to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the secretary will please note the roll. And we'll start with public comment. Do you have any?
No, sir.
Nothing. So I'll ask for volunteers. No volunteers for public comment, fair enough. So now I'd like to get to presentations, recognition, and awards.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and to our intimate setting. We have a lot of things, a lot of celebrations tonight. And I really want to thank everybody for making the effort to get here. Ladies, you did a great job, and your coaches really putting everybody, I couldn't have done really choreographed it better myself. So I thank you for, first of all, coming. I just want to read a little bit of bio about the type of year that you had and share that with the audience. The Pottsgrove girls lacrosse team achieved a number of firsts this season. An overall 16-8 record is the most wins in program history. So you check box right there. The girls won the Frontier Division by going undefeated in divisional play. This is the first Frontier Division championship in the program's history. The Falcons also qualified for the PIAA District 1 playoffs and won their first playoff game in school history as well. Congratulations. They ended up placing fourth in the district playoffs, which qualified them for the PIAA State Championship, another first in the program's history as well. Congratulations there. The excitement doesn't stop there. Our team was recently notified by the Pennsylvania Area School Girls Lacrosse Association that they were named the most improved team in 2019. Congratulations. We want to thank our coaches, Ms. Kristen Uri, assisted by Tony Montez, Liz Weekly, and Ms. Brooke Saylor. Congratulations on a great season, and thank you for taking the time to come out tonight with our school board members to be recognized. Mr. Ansbach has certificates for you in appreciation, and I would like to open up the floor for any comments from the coaches or team captains, etc., however the spirit may move you.
Oh, man. Speaker, it's like putting me on the spot. But no, we had a really great season this year, but it comes down to the hard work that the girls put in. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten nearly this far. You know, they didn't give us everything they had, every practice, every game. And I think the coaching staff, we were really well-rounded this year. We all meshed well, and, you know, we all took care of business in every aspect of the field this year.
Thank you. So, Mr. Ansbach, you have their certificates, and you will give them out?
In the lobby of the high school.
Excellent, even better. Thank you. Very good.
Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Shocking. Back to school, they're gone, man.
Our next presentations we'd like to do are, and we're going to just sort of have a little intimate setting with everybody, and everybody have to come up front. Two teams this year, the Pottsgrove High School students have won national honors in the 2018-19 academic year in the Final Word Right Challenge, a nationwide contest that asks students to analyze the emotion and logic of classic writing and to notice how writer styles shape the shade of their meaning. Pottsgrove 11th graders tied for 13th place in the nation among 693 schools teams participating, which obviously is very, very impressive. Seniors, and this year's class valedictorian, Paul Sachs, is one of the 12th highest ranked seniors in the country in this contest, year-ending cumulative standings, and tied for 14th in the nation. Pretty impressive. Kidding, words kidding. Also, 2 other Pottsgrove students achieved perfect scores in this year's challenge. Juniors Simon Lappig and Brianna Mayberry both represent us here at the school at our juniors, and we want to thank them for their work and congratulate all 3 students and wish them a happy, healthy summer and best of luck in the future. Their advisor was English teacher Todd Kelly. If those students would come up and please accept their certificate from the board. We appreciate that. Come on up. That's Paul's. Paul?
Congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you.
If you all just turn around, that'd be great for a picture. We'll go to the side.
Better look me behind.
Well done.
Your height check.
Okay, the next part of our program, we'd like to really recognize the service of our retirees who've dedicated anywhere from 35 or more years of service to the district and education, as well as our support staff who have dedicated themselves to grounds custodial maintenance, obviously, and have put a lot of time and effort in the careers. We want to recognize them tonight. Now, not everybody, and I'm going to grab my water, because I'm going to do a lot of talking. Thank you for being patient. Danette Bond could not be here tonight, but I just really want to read a quick bio. Danette is a graduate of Pottsgrove High School and returned to teach in the district in 2003. She's been teaching special education at the elementary middle school level at that time. While she has no definite plans for retirement, she looks forward to relaxing and spending time with her family. That was Danette Bond. Carol Bean, I know Carol is here. Come on up, Carol. We want to talk about you as you come up here. Congratulations. Carol began at Pottsgrove in 1988, teaching music at West Pottsgrove and Ringing Rocks. She moved to her current position of middle school music teacher in 1999. Her plans for retirement include spending more time with her 4 grandchildren, volunteering for various charities for children, and for leukemia. Carol Bean. Linda Bonkoski is not coming tonight, but I wanted to read her bio. Linda started with the district as a in-school support monitor at the Pottsgrove Middle School in 2007. The following year, she became the library assistant at the middle school, a position she held this year, where she began working in all 3 elementary libraries. Now that she's retiring, she plans to travel, play pickleball, read new books, and sleep in. Dale Kogan? Dale, come on up. I love yours. I can't wait. I'm going to ad-lib this one a little bit. Okay, cool. I'm ready. Dale worked previously in the district as a substitute and returned as a full-time custodian in 2015. When asked what his plans are for retirement, he said whatever his wife tells him to do. Okay, smart man. When he finishes her list, he is looking forward to fishing, golfing, working out, and doing whatever he wants when he wants. Megan Delana could not be with us tonight. Megan is currently a gifted teacher at Pottsgrove High School. She was originally hired as a business education teacher. During her time in that position, she was instrumental in the growth of our DECA program. Megan and her husband are moving to South Carolina to be closer to their children. She will continue to work as a business education teacher in the Fort Mill School District in South Carolina. So we wish her well. Jane Edelman, Jane, come on up, please. Jane. Come on up, there you go, front and center. You bet. Jane began teaching in Pottsgrove in 1987. She is currently teaching language arts at the middle school. When asked about her retirement, she has no particular plans. She's looking forward to enjoying a less stressful life, apply that, and relax and play the rest by ear. Very good. Congratulations, Jane.
Thank you.
Lisa Jensky. Leslie, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My
Got
mistake.
the Jensky right.
There you go. Very good. Leslie was hired in August of 2002 and has been teaching math at our high school ever since. The decision to retire was not an easy one for her. However, that changed when she found out she was going to be a grandmother to twins later this summer. Congratulations. While it may not be relaxing, she is looking forward to helping with the babies and spending time with all her family. Congratulations. Rob Land. Rob has been a reading specialist in the district since October of 1980. Since that time, he has helped instill the art of reading to countless students. He has been a fixture in the district reading program and a mentor to many of our teachers and staff members. Rob plans to catch up on some home improvement projects with his free time. He also plans to travel with his wife and already has a vacation plan for Maine in the fall. So you can't do that. You can't do that.
I could never do
No,
that.
no, absolutely.
First time ever.
Congratulations. Yeah. Paul Leopard. Paul, come on up. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Paul started with the district as a substitute before joining us as a permanent position as the ACA monitor at the high school in 2014. Paul is looking forward to traveling with his wife to visit their son in Maine. You two get together. That's right.
We know it's lucky.
He loves to garden and is a wonderful photographer who plans to spend more time taking pictures. Congratulations, Paul. Diane Manola. Bea began her nursing career with Pottsgrove in 1996. She is looking forward to having more time to travel, exploring the country and the world, and she hopes to learn Spanish. She enjoys exercise and plans to spend time on her health and well-being. She will keep busy with her 5 grandchildren and another one on the way. She is looking forward to having more time to spend with them and her extended family and friends. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, so help me out. This is one? No.
We need Janet Edelman.
Janet? It's Janet. Janet Edelman. Jane. Jane's here?
No.
Jane McEachern and Janet Edelman, I think you got us mixed up.
She did.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought.
Jane?
No, that's a different. There's 2 Janes.
Right.
We already-
Who's up next then?
Okay. Call Janet up and read this.
Janet, come on up. That will help us. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Sorry about that. Oh, I see. Okay. You got it, Jamie.
And Janet. They have each
Okay. How about a big round of applause for that? It's sort of another day in education, right?
Always.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Janet began teaching in Pottsgrove in 1987. She is currently teaching language arts at the middle school, is that correct?
No, science.
Keep going.
That's not wrong.
The rest is
No,
okay.
it is. It's
The rest
it's
is correct,
correct.
because I was.
Okay, how about this? She is currently teaching science at the middle school. Is it Matt, is that why you're waving back there like that? Okay. When asked about her retirement,
Correct.
fair. She said she has no particular plan. She's looking forward to enjoying a less stressful life and relax and play the rest by ear.
Wherever it takes me.
Congratulations. I need to call Jane up.
Jane McEachran.
Come on
Yes,
up.
Jane, you have Janet's copy.
Did I get another?
Jane Marie, we're going to read it again.
Okay.
How's that? All right. Absolutely, no,
Thank you.
absolutely.
like a woman with a plan.
I love it. After working for many years in the private sector and teaching and being the department head for the language arts program at both the middle school and high school, Jane is now looking forward to a new beginning in her retirement. She will be a consultant for the Department of Ed and looking forward to a new lifestyle in South Carolina. She hopes to finish a nonfiction short story collection that she has been working on and traveling with her family and friends.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, Karen Martin. I'm going to cross my fingers. Watch out. Good stuff. Light on your feet. That's good. Good stuff. Karen, congratulations. Thanks for being here. Karen,
Somebody else is up to you, just saying that.
Karen started in the district as a classroom teacher before moving to guidance. She has been a counselor at Ringing Rocks for the past several years. Karen has no particular plans other than to take time to relax. Karen stated that she has a very strong faith and she trusts she will follow on the path the Lord leads her. Congratulations. Jane McCracken. Got that right?
You're good now.
Good evening. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Come on around, turn around, face the crowd. Jane has worked in district since 1999 as a special education paraprofessional. While she is a little nervous to actually retire, she is looking forward to spending time with her plants while gardening. She hopes to find time to read more and relax, and she plans to visit and spend time with her mother and travel with her husband. Congratulations.
Thank
Cynthia.
I have to go over here first. That's one of my boys.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I should have added
Someone's
into
blood.
my long
You should.
story.
You know what? I'll add it at the end.
You can add it at the
How's
end.
that? Or maybe you don't want to add it at the end. I don't
Right,
know.
Scott?
Right. Cindy returned to Pottsgrove in 1997 as an elementary art teacher. After several years, she moved to the high school where she is currently teaching. During her time in the district, she has also served as the district art department coordinator. She's looking forward to spending time with her 4 grandchildren and working in the shop she runs called Rust and Sparkle. She plans on doing her own painting, jewelry making, art projects, in addition to spending time with her husband enjoying the local flea markets. And also speaks very highly of Scott.
I did. I did.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay. One more. Roy Wagner, come on down. Roy was hired as a custodian in the district in July of 1980. He worked for many years at West Pottsgrove Elementary before transferring to the high school as a first shift custodian. When he retires, he plans to work on projects around the house, travel with his wife Judy, who is also a custodian in the district, and enjoy his free time. Roy, congratulations. Daryl Wyman. Thanks for coming. Daryl has taught music on every level in the district since 1986. He plans to work as a trombone magician on the Princess Cruise Line. Musician. He's going to work as a trombone player, expertise, with the Princess Cruise Line starting in July, and he's going to work from San Francisco to Alaska. In between ships, he will continue playing professionally in the Philadelphia area and will substitute.
Yep.
Okay.
Once in a while.
And teach private lessons. Congratulations, Darren. And last but not least, I just want to, Cindy Wozniak is not here tonight, but Cindy has been teaching family consumer science in the district since 2001. During retirement, she's looking forward to spending more time with her family, including her married children, grandson, and elderly parents. She is looking forward to cooking and baking for them. She hopes to get involved with volunteer work, especially at her church, and she's also looking forward to travel with her husband anytime she wants, not only during the summer months. Once again, I thank you all for coming. I thank you for your patience, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. One more. Last but surely not least, Savannah Lear, would you come up, Savannah, please? Savannah, we would like to thank you for your service the past 2 years, and just tell our crowd a little bit about what you've done with your time in the district. Over the past 4 years, Savannah has participated in basketball and was also the captain of the varsity volleyball team. This year, she was vice president of the National Honor Society. She has been a school board rep, as I mentioned, in 2017-18 school year, and then again in 18-19. She plans on attending Westchester to be part of their honors college and is studying English, literature, and education. Congratulations.
Before we get right
Get a special plug for their name.
back to order, and the regular order of things, I would just like to say that, that's a real good news, bad news story. We appreciate all of the work, all the time, all the years that all of those people have given to our district, and it's sad to see them go, but I like to see people leaving while they're still happy and full of life and be able to go out and enjoy things. So, good news for them, a little sad news for us. So, thanks to all of them. Moving on, so we're back to the regular order of things, sir.
Yes, we are. Approval of the monthly board actions and minutes. It's 4.1, and we're asking the board to recommend the approval of the monthly board actions for May 14th, 2019.
Make a motion to combine both 4.1 and 4.2.
We have a motion from Mr. Leach and a second from Mr. Lappick to combine 4.1 and 4.2 into a single motion. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to receiving the accounts for audit. Mr. Nestor?
I need a motion that we accept the high school accounts, the middle school accounts, and the cafeteria accounts as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a motion from Ms. Kessler and a second from Mr. Leach to receive the accounts for audit. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
We need a motion to approve the payment of invoices in the amount of $6,230,177.61 for May 2019 as presented.
So moved. Second.
By a hair, we have a motion from Dr. Nipper and a second from Mr. Leach to approve the, which one, granting of orders. So are there any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
And finally, we need a motion to approve the treasurer's report for May of 2019 as presented and file it for audit.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Gusser and a second from Mr. Leach to approve the treasurer's report. Does anybody have any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Okay, moving on to the report of the superintendent. I'd like to turn it over to our board reps for their final report of the year.
All right, so school is over. Many schools have their own end-of-year events, like a pool party for the middle school students and senior awards at the high school. On Wednesday the 5th, Savannah and I and a few other volunteers went to Ringing Rocks to celebrate with the students who had managed to read 100 books over the course of the school year. We had a dance party, which included kindergartners and first graders, and we spent the afternoon dancing and having a great time. The students were definitely excited and clearly enjoyed themselves, and it was a really awesome way to reward the students for putting in so much time over the year. And they all assured us that they would continue reading over the summer. Summer playground starts in the end of June, so that's something that a lot of the elementary kids are looking forward to, as well as the high schoolers who work there. And overall, it was another successful year at Pottsgrove.
Real quick before, I want to say thank you to you ladies. It's been a wonderful time having you both, and Savannah obviously for 2 years, so congratulations. The only other thing I'd ask is that we have the replacement a little bit earlier next year than we had last year. We had a little bit of time. I'd like to find a way to get that done a little bit earlier, maybe in August.
It's going to happen.
As soon as the kids come back. Perfect.
Okay, we'd like to thank you both again. And we'd like to move on to a discussion item. Ms. Pacito is going to have a discussion to present further options for discussion. And I just want to preface our conversation tonight, because I really want you to be able to listen. Obviously, listen. I know you're going to. I apologize for that. I don't mean that. But I want you to really take the time to digest this, because for us, we've been very thoughtful with this particular presentation, but we also want to continue this conversation, possibly even, and I've talked to Mr. Linger about this, as a workshop in the summer, and continue the conversation into August and September, because we have to philosophically decide how we want to support our most needy children. I mean, obviously, there's a financial price tag to that, but I think we have to say to ourselves, what's our district philosophy as we have students that have emotional disabilities, if you will, and then what's our responsibility as a board and as a district, not only to the families but to our teachers and administrators. So it's pretty encompassing. So I don't want us to get bogged down tonight on all of that, because there's a lot of time for conversation. But I do want to tell you that those conversations will continue to take place over the next 3 to 4 months before, as we move to the future in the next budget cycle, because we do have some systems in place already. So we just have to sort of think about how we want to go about the tackling the situation. So, Ms. Pacito, we'll let you get started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Shirk. I appreciate the opportunity here with the board, and I appreciate the kickoff. My intent tonight is to share an overview with you, as well as some options regarding a proposal for supports, as Dr. Shirk recommended, for further developing emotional support program with social and emotional supports for our neediest students. So I will kick off from there. Would include the bulleted items listed: classroom embedded counseling, utilization of evidence-based social skills instruction, positive behavior supports for students, as well as always research-based academic interventions. And while I do want to give you an overview, I'm certainly open to questions. So if anything comes to mind, feel free just to interrupt. So the next slide, really this conversation started probably over a year ago with some members of the board and some discussions around budget season. And I have data presented on this slide that explains part of our rationale for having this conversation. What you see on the slide is data, and the other part of the rationale that I just really want to make clear that's not represented here is that our first and foremost consideration is meeting the needs of the students in our population. So I just want to make that clear. The additional numbers on this slide are another part of the rationale for consideration for further developing in-house, in-district supports. So as you can see, currently we have 65 students in district that are receiving emotional supports through the special education department. 13 of those 65 are elementary age students that require instruction, programming, and placement outside of our district buildings. So either in private settings, private licensed schools, or approved private schools. So for those 13, the total out-of-district placement costs from last year, which are the most recently fully concluded numbers that I have, are just under, as you can see, just under $500,000. And it's important to note that that price includes tuition and transportation, not always related services, speech, occupational therapy, et cetera. So in terms of options, I have 3 outlined here, and the subsequent slides I'll dive into a little bit more detail for each of these options. I've chosen these 3. There are many, many more variations of this that we could probably discuss in conversations with colleagues in other local districts, with my administrative team here. These 3, I believe, are the most viable options, which is why I've selected them at this point, but know that there are probably many more that we could discuss. Option A is really just to continue doing what we're doing right now, which is to provide high-quality emotional support programming for students that are considered part-time, itinerant, or supplemental. That means that they are mainstreamed in the general education classroom to varying degrees throughout the day. At this current time, the district does not run a full-time emotional support program, so option A would be status quo for that. Another option that I'll dive into a little bit in greater detail in a moment would be the development of 2 full-time emotional support classrooms within our district, which we currently don't have. And I propose that one of those would be a K-2 classroom, mixed grade level, which is allowable under PA code and certainly very common, and then a 3-5 classroom. And again, I'll provide some additional details on that in a moment. Option C is very similar to option B and would include the provision of 2 classrooms, but instead of all of the components that go into the district operating the program, option C would be that we would contract with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit to run that program for us. Everybody okay so far?
Just a question on option
Sure.
A. What was the, what were you saying below as far as reallocating resources?
Sure. So one of the things, and I'll kind of give you an overview, one of the things that we've been having a lot of conversation about with our teacher staff and administrators is in advance of the district really committing to further developing a program, how can we reallocate the resources that we currently have to maximize the supports that we're providing in our district buildings. And certainly K-2 is a time that we're just getting acclimated with students. They're coming in often without prior educational experiences, early learning. So we have 3 special education teachers at Ringing Rocks, for example. And instead of a prior allocation where we had done a grade level, organized students by grade level within the special education programs, we're going to reallocate and service students by need. So not exactly a full implementation with all of the components that would go with that, but we think that it will give us greater flexibility to really meet the needs of the students in the buildings.
Option A would address the students that you would be keeping here.
Yes.
Would be bringing in back.
Correct. Good question. So let's talk a little bit more about option A. I have some pluses next to something. Obviously, ease of implementation. It's easy to do what you've always done, kind of thing. And I do want to highlight, as most of you know, Cottage 7 Academy is a private license program that opened up a few years ago in Pottstown. We have developed a successful partnership with this program. It is very close, so the proximity certainly makes a lot of things easy. Provision of related services, transportation. As we identify that students are ready for a transition back to a district or perhaps a trial transition, those things are really easy to accommodate. Partnerships with the Western Center, for example. So this has been a really nice option for us locally, and it's generally more cost effective than some of our other out-of-district partners. So that does help us. Other considerations that I have on here that we can dig into more deeply at some point in time, for students that may require more support than is currently available within district schools, it can certainly take time to facilitate a private placement. And that time often is time the student could benefit. So that's just a consideration for the team. Obviously, a large one is that tuition costs are variable. And that variability is usually going up, not down, and it's not something that we have control over. And you obviously see that in the budget season and when we present new contracts to you. Another consideration, ESY costs. Again, those are variable and generally separate from the regular school year tuition. It's a separate curriculum, which gives us a little bit less control. We obviously have a lot of oversight to the extent that we're able to, but I just note that there is less control there with option A. Moving on to option B, and again, in this model, the district would hypothetically develop 2 elementary full-time emotional support classrooms, and I have several considerations. This is certainly not an exhaustive list, but what I thought were the key points for this level of the discussion. Space allocations. When Mrs. Kohler was at West Pottsgrove, we had lots of conversations about perhaps some availability at West Pottsgrove for a K-2 classroom. That's certainly not locked into stone. And an allocation at Lower Pottsgrove would be a greater challenge that we would need to, take a careful look at. We would certainly need to have IEP meetings for all students involved in terms of if we were thinking of bringing them back to the school district and garner parent consent in that process. And then I have some other things here listed that I think I've touched on already. Transportation costs would be reduced if we're limiting our around the county or cross-county transit as well. So this slide really articulates some financial impact items to consider with the second option, the development of our own classrooms. Certainly staffing is the most significant consideration with the financial impact. The classrooms would need a highly qualified teacher. They would need a highly qualified instructional assistant, which all of our special education classrooms already do. We would need registered behavior technicians. We would need part-time board-certified behavior analyst consultation and support, as well as social work and or counseling support on a part-time basis in order for the program to be able to run successfully. So those are financial impact items. There would be a need for some additional supervisory staff. To what capacity, I'm not quite sure, but that could certainly bring value added in other areas as well. Projectors, if they're not already in the designated areas that we would identify, as well as sensory spaces, et cetera, and accompanying curricular and intervention materials.
Question on supervisory staff. If we're have more than, what, 9 kids in the class? I don't know if you mentioned somewhere around there.
8 to 9, yes.
Why would that require an additional, I imagine you're talking about an administrator, or?
I'm not quite sure. I haven't drilled down that
Okay,
far
so
yet,
it's a
but there
possibility.
is caseload and workload allocation are not necessarily equal. So for some students, when the needs are more significant, there requires a lot more oversight, planning, meeting time, etc. So option 3, C, not 3. Again, as I indicated before, very similar to B in terms of the classroom allocations and development, with the exception that the MCIU would be contracted as opposed to the hiring of the staff. So they would facilitate and run the programs on behalf of the district. Allows for flexibility. Certainly, we could opt to discontinue the program and the contract based on the terms of the contract. Would not necessarily be as much of a commitment there. We could also decide, because it would be, they would theoretically be Montgomery County Intermediate Unit classrooms, not Pottsgrove School District classrooms. So we could make the decision as to whether or not we would host other students from other districts in the program, and that helps defray, offset some costs.
We couldn't do that with option B. I mean, like we pay tuition to students in other public schools at times, maybe? No, I'm not sure.
Our Pottsgrove's current board policy does not accept tuition students. That is something that some districts decide that they will accept tuition students. And what that means is, for example, one of our local partners, or the district could approach us and say, we don't have the program in our school, but I believe you do. Can we pay you instead of paying another school? Our current policy does not allow for tuition students. That could certainly be examined if that's something that the board wanted to do.
But just to go back to his
Sure.
to Mr. Parker's question, under option B, would that contracting be permissible?
Contracting, accepting students from other districts?
Yeah.
If the policy changed.
If we,
It would be a policy
we
change.
would have to change the policy
Okay.
if we decided that that was something we wanted to do.
But that option would be available in both your option B and your option C, depending upon the action of this board.
Correct. Option B would require board action. Option C would not require board action because it would not be a Pottsgrove classroom. It would be an MCIU
Okay.
classroom. Yeah.
Just so.
Sure. So this, excuse me, this slide breaks down estimated costs. Please know that these are an estimate. They're variable. They're ever changing, especially, well, I was going to say especially in option C because this is already old data based on having met with them and got some information from them, but certainly all of the options would be variable. You can see the anticipated final costs for this school year, which we're wrapping up very soon, $568. Option B includes all of the staff that I have listed here, which, based on our analysis, communicating with colleagues in other districts, communicating with MCIU, looking at best practice, we recommend the provision of all of those services and staff if we were to create a well-developed and responsive program, which I believe is what's needed. So that actually comes in just under option A. That's certainly not a constant number, though, knowing that those costs would rise over years. And then option C, 721, was the number that I was quoted in the fall. That does not include ESY costs either.
With regard to, I have a couple of
Sure.
questions. With regard to option B, can I assume that if we were able to implement that, we could actually bring some of our students back in because we would have the resources available and staffing and all of that?
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, that is the
So in
goal.
other words, it appears as if it's the cheapest option and it also could return our community members back to us, and therefore actually be a cost savings as compared to what we're doing today. Is that
Yes.
accurate? Okay. And then
Knowing that there are some variables that we probably can't predict right now.
Right,
But
right.
yes.
My other question was going to be if I mean, you're the closest to this with your staff, you're the, your finger on the pulse of that. What's your wish list item on this? If I can put you on the spot and ask you what you would prefer.
I think we need to have more conversation around it, in truth. You knew I was going to say that.
I just wanted to know, so that's a really good answer. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate the question, and I would say to you that I think I speak for my team when I say that whatever we decide to do, whatever the board wishes for the district, the administration to do, we want to do it well. So I would just ask that whatever option we eventually choose after, more conversation, that we give it the support that it deserves.
Thank you.
With option C, if we were to open it up, do you have any idea, minimal or larger impact, the defraying of costs?
So we would not be, the classrooms have to have a cap between 8 and 10 students, depending on a couple of factors. And so you can see, we could do the math around that. My experience lends me to suggest that the classrooms would fill. And it would really just depend on how many of those were Pottsgrove students versus neighboring district students.
I'm sorry.
No.
So the costs are going to be dependent on the number of students, and I'm just thinking, since if we're doing this step and everything else we've been doing to make our students comfortable within our district, we have students moving into the district seeking us out. So you said the cap of 8 to 10, and then we get 12. What happens then? Do we have to have a whole other set of classes? Do we turn away some? Do we outsource some? I mean, I like option B, but just trying to think like or is it one of those things where we would be able to bring in from other school districts to offset the cost of having a second one? I mean, I don't know how those numbers have increased. The 8 to 10, like last year was last year still around that number of students, or have we tripled in the last few years? How many emotional support we need?
We've certainly not tripled.
Okay.
We've
I just
certainly not
randomly saying
tripled. Our programs all are growing. So I think, and Dr. Cantor can tell me exactly, I think we're around 19%.
19.3% of our population.
I told you we would have the exact 19.3% of our district population are students with IEPs. So it's growing. It's definitely not tripled. I can't necessarily predict how. Right. I can't necessarily predict how quickly we would fill classrooms, but there are a lot of options that we would have in terms of we fill with our own students first.
Or what if they are our students, priority within them, or?
Right. And we make these decisions all the time for all of our other programs. So they're decisions that we're comfortable making. We analyze the data that we have in front of us, we consult with our colleagues, and we do what we think is most appropriate.
I know this is just the first of many conversations, but I'll just point out just real quick again, where this model for option B looks at 5 staff for average figure 9 kids at some point. I think we need some real in-depth thought and consideration if that would qualify or require or call for an additional administrator. Being in ES classes many years, I don't see that need, but I know this is one of many conversations. So just to say, if we didn't need the need for that 557 would be even less.
Just conceptually about the other administrator, it really is about a tipping point, and to think about where we are right now with the pressures that we have on the current administrative staff, I'd say we may be there close to it now. So adding this piece, it's really the workload of it's taking, if we were to take this on, it would throw us over the tipping point. And as we can, we'll have a lot more conversations around this, but I do have, I do believe that one of the reasons we would need an additional administrator is because of where the workload is right now for the current staff of special education administrators. So it's not just an administrator that's going to be designated to that class. They're going to be doing many other things, but when you talk about the workload for what we have currently, I would use the word tipping point, and I think that that is something that we would need to talk about where we are right now.
All right, so I have a question in regards, and I don't know if this is going to be for you, Kate, or for Dr. Shirk. In regards to the students that you possibly would bring back, right? They're going to be our IEP students. And our IEP students generally have performed at our lowest numbers, performance-wise. When they go away and they're out of district, does that count against our numbers?
Those students all take our PSSAs, our.
So they still count against ours.
They're presently
So if we bring them
counted.
back, then obviously we go through our curriculum and again has our opportunity of better growth per se, because from my understanding, IEP growth is going to be a major factor going forward. Am I correct?
Always has been.
So if we develop a stronger program, keeping it in-house, we could actually help our students perform better, in the end, also helping our school perform better.
Yes, I would
Okay.
agree with that philosophy.
My question is, what happens after 5th grade?
We already have the programs at the secondary level.
But this would theoretically be adding 59 students, so might require an additional.
Our programs at the secondary level are full. So perhaps.
Your estimate does not include revenue from other districts supplying us. Is that correct?
That's correct. It does not include revenue from other districts.
So if
Option C presumes that all of the students in the program are our students.
Okay. Option B does not include any change in it because you didn't include policy in there.
Correct.
So, okay. As I'm looking at it, and this is just my first analysis, I'm looking at option A's cost and the cost number as option B. Given the accuracy of preliminary estimates, I know how preliminary estimates are. Option A and option B basically cost the same. I mean, I'm not disputing the benefits which you've described, which I think are significant. But looking at those two numbers, I'm going to say those two numbers are essentially the same. Within the accuracies of normal estimates, of preliminary estimates.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
So, don't throw anything at me. But in a little bit, we're going to be asked to approve, just curious, we're going to be asked to approve $86,000 for one student for 1 year in an autistic out-of-school placement, and $15,000, I don't know if it's the same student or another, for an ESY program, so just during the summer. You can't do everything at once. Just curious, was there a reason why ES versus autistic class, or and/or do you think in the future you might consider an autistic class as well? I know, one thing at a time, but just your initial thoughts on that.
Sure. We do have autistic support programs, fully developed autistic support programs at every level. So if you think about the continuum of supports, we mainstream students as much as possible. That's always the goal. And we move to a more and more restrictive environment when students aren't demonstrating the ability to be safe or successful in that environment. And those are, there's a lot of data that's considered in those decisions. So if we get to a point where a student is not educated in a district classroom that exists, it's because the team has determined that the students' needs require a more intensive program than what is able to be provided here.
So my question is, would we consider in the future creating our own more intensive program? So we're not spending $86,000 just for just one student? Maybe we can just talk about this in a couple of years.
I think the reality is we'll probably always have tuitions to some degree.
I think I know the answer to this already, but I'll ask it anyway. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask based on the presentation? Okay, then in that case, thank you very, very much for putting this together, especially having the guts to put numbers on those cost estimates. That was appreciated. I know what a difficult thing that is with all the variables and everything else. And thank you for not telling us all the caveats that went into that. I appreciate that. That would have taken more time than we have tonight. As you mentioned, this is going to be the first conversation. We'll have more. And what I anticipate is that the board will have discussions on this, and we'll probably give you some direction in terms of what additional information we're looking for from you. But please continue on. I think you have a series of these, 2 or 3 of these planned. So continue on. If we think of anything valuable to add, we'll ask you for that information in due course. Thanks very much for all the work.
Thanks, Gabe. Moving on to action items for personnel. 10.1, professional staff. We're asking the board to approve the professional staff retirements as submitted.
Motion to combine 10.1 to 10.8.
We have a motion and a second to combine items 10.1 through 10.8, which are all, I think, the personnel items, yeah? It was made by Mr. Parker, seconded by Mr. Leach. Does anybody have any questions about these items?
I had one question in regards to 10.2 with John Hughes, the math teacher. Being that Mr. Hughes, from my understanding, is the only advanced math teacher we have in the high school, do we have a plan yet in place, or are we just putting out the advertisement now?
No, we do have a plan in place. In fact, I think Dr. Ziegler, our meeting, has recommended candidate very soon.
Yes.
Early next week, I think.
We submitted the packet today, so I think you're interviewing them next week.
Yeah, so, and someone who has experience in all those.
Advanced class, we really got
absolutely.
We actually have one of our other math teachers also stepping up into that position also.
So we'll have 2
Well,
advanced teachers.
we're going to actually open it up to broaden the scope of the teaching, so it's not just one person.
Are there any other questions? If there's no other questions, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Okay, moving forward to action items for business. Our recommended action, we're asking the board to approve the general budget for the 1920 school year in the amount of $68,564,288 as presented.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion from Mr. Leach and a second from Mr. Lappick. All right, to approve the budget. Does anybody have any questions?
Not a question, but just a comment. This is 11.1, and when we're going to actually go through 11.2, 3, 4, 5, and some of them are arbitrary, we have to do them in Act 5, 11, and such like that. The only thing I would find easier for me in the future is if when we've proved the general budget, there shouldn't be items afterwards that we can possibly say no to that would affect the budget. So it's kind of weird. We do this every year. We approve the budget, and then we approve the other items, and we're kind of like, well, we should have approved the other items first, and the budget should always be last. So my idea is we should always have already approved everything, and today we do the budget or You know, that's just how it just always looks weird to me every year.
Well, the budget is actually a spending plan. Okay, the allocation or the tax increase is a revenue generation authorization. We can flip them around. That's certainly possible.
If I
Okay.
approve this, I can't say no to something else. I mean, that's
You
not
can,
on purpose.
you can, but it wouldn't help very much.
I was going to say the numbers don't add up at the end of the year.
I mean, it just drives me crazy every year.
Point well taken. We'll consider that and remind you before June next year. So as not to cause any distress to Mr. Leach.
Would have been nice.
Are there any other questions on 10.1? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So ordered without objection.
Excuse me, 11.2, the real estate levy. We're asking the board to adopt the 2019-20 real estate levy.
We have a motion from Mr. Custer and a second from Mr. Leach to approve 11.2, the real estate levy. Does anybody have any questions? If not, motion to approve, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
11.3, Act 511, taxes and per capita tax. We're asking the board to approve a continuation of the previously levied Act 511 taxes and a per capita tax, Section Code 679 of the School Code as presented.
We have a motion from Mr. Hutt and a second from Mr. Leach to approve 11.3, the Act 511 taxes and the per capita tax. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Yeah, I had a question. Obviously, I sent to you earlier today in regards to this, and I understand these cannot be increased. If am I correct on that?
I can tell you that the per capita taxes are at the max, as well as the mercantile tax. The earned income tax, I have to do a little bit more research on. There may be the possibility of going through a referendum process to raise the earned income tax and then use those proceeds to reduce property taxes.
That'll never pass, obviously, I know. But the only thing I would say is some of these taxes would help defray some of the other individuals that don't make as much money or don't have the same resources like our seniors and our elderly and such like that. It would be a lot easier if we could, but if we can't, we can't. There's nothing we can do.
Point of information. We frequently combine, this goes back to something Mr. Leach mentioned earlier. We frequently combine items, and I think these items, is there any reason why we can't combine 11, 3, 4, and 5?
Sure, we can combine anything. You make a motion. Second.
So moved.
It's just going through. I hate questions. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Make the motion.
Well, we have a motion on the floor.
You have to finish this first.
Would somebody care to amend their motion?
Move to amend it.
my motion.
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Okay. Would somebody care, maybe it was Mr. Leach. Mr. Leach care to amend his second? Okay, we have an amended motion and second to combine 3, 4, and 5. Does anybody have any questions about the combined motion?
Okay, then I had, like, the reason why I didn't was I had different questions, all right? H.A. Berkheimer's been our tax collector for probably ever, and they're probably the tax collector probably for pretty much every school district. Is that ever bid out, or is any other competition ever for that? I mean, I don't know.
Actually, from an earned income tax level, we have a countywide earned income tax committee, and they do bid the earned income tax collection every, what is it, Ron?
The contract expires in 2 years, so.
Maybe every 3 or 4 years. Berkheimer is one of the largest earned income tax collectors in this region. And this is, their commission is actually less than it was when we started in 2006-07. The others, these are delinquent taxes that they collect for us in most cases, and there's a limited number of vendors out there, yeah.
I also have a question about that. So we contract Berkheimer, but then we also have a tax collector that in each township, correct? So who's paying that salary?
The local property tax collectors?
Mm-hmm.
That is a payment that you approve through the school board each year. It's part of the budget.
Okay, so the school is paying for her? Or
We have
whatever.
three, right.
Yeah.
We have three.
In Upper
property ta-
Pottsgrove, it's a she.
We have 3
It's
property
female.
tax collectors.
So, why do we use a property tax collector, but then also use Berkheimer? If you
These
can
are different
explain that.
taxes.
I think I know where she's going.
Okay.
They're not set up to do it.
Gotcha,
Two different specialties.
gotcha, okay, understood, thank you.
Once her name gets the property.
All right, do we have any more questions on 11.2, 3, or 4? Okay. And 5? All right. Very good. Then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection. Thank you for the help on that.
11.6, budget transfers. We're asking the board to approve budget transfers for May 2019 as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to combine 11.6 through 11.13.
Do we have any questions on 11.6 through 11.13? No questions, just one comment. This kind of robs you of your opportunity to.
He gets to stay.
To get your attention. Are there any questions on these items? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So you're stuck with this for another year.
Action items for 12, education, 12.1. We're asking the board to approve the conference attendance items as submitted. Item as submitted.
For 12.1.
12.1.
We have a motion and a second for item 12.1 from Mr. Parker and seconded by Mr. Lappick. Does anybody have any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection. Thank you.
12.2, conference attendance, not-for-profit government accounting conference. We're asking you to approve the conference attendance as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Hutt and a second from Dr. Nippert to approve 12.2, the attendance at a conference. Does anybody have any questions on this item?
Yeah, just a quick question in regards, I know it's sending both. Am I correct? You get some type of certification for this one, or is it just sending you both because we need both of you to go?
It's continuing education, yeah, that is required to retain our CPA licenses.
Another question, are you going to be attending separate sessions?
Yes, there are a variety of not common sessions, but concurrent sessions, thank you, that we will be attending different ones, yes.
Are there any other questions? If not, well, we'll wait. Pause.
Okay. My apologies. So, does the district pay for your license, like continuing ed? Is that a part of your, was that a part of like perks or whatever?
It's not a perk. It's no different than what we do for teachers or administrators. This is where we learn about governmental accounting initiatives and things of that nature that pertain to our job. The trainings that we have in district for teachers and whatnot do not directly pertain to what we do and as our part of the business operation.
No, I understand that. I just didn't know if it was normal for an employer to cover continuing ed for stuff like that. I'm just not clear on that.
It's just, it is normal. I mean, to keep us to the top of our industry and our knowledge base so that we can help guide the district in the appropriate direction, we need to get training to keep up to current standards.
Oh, I understand that. I just didn't know if it was something that was normally paid for out of, you know, the employee's pocket or the employer's pocket. In my industry, nobody pays me to take continuing ed, but I got to do it anyway. But I'm in a totally different industry, so I was just curious.
Are there any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Okay, moving on to action items for policy. We're asking the board to approve the policies as submitted, policy 249 and 904.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Scusser and a second from Mr. Lappick to approve the policies as presented in item 13.1. Does anyone have any questions on these two? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Very good.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. The Curriculum Integration Technology Committee met on May 28th, and we have a report.
All right. All right, we had our meeting on the 28th, 6:30 to 7:30. It was before our regular board meeting, which is unusual for us, but we made it work. So since it was the last meeting of the year, we just did sort of an overview of everything that's gone on throughout the year and had the different administrators and directors of different areas presenting things to us, which was actually very helpful, I thought, and very informative. We started out with some accomplishments, and then we moved into the different departments, like how the assessment plan was reviewed and how data was used in accordance to those plans. Then we talked about professional learning for the staff and how that was used towards, furthering everyone else's, I'm losing my words here, how just furthered their own education in certain areas, and how using a flex day was very helpful because the teachers got to take some time during a professional development day and decide how to use that to further their own education. We talked about communication within the district, the website, Big List, School Messenger, all that stuff, and how each was working out for us. And then how we can further communicate with parents, students, stakeholders. And we talked about leadership and supervision and evaluations, observations, all that kind of stuff within the district, how it's used, how we then use the map data, PVOS, to help the teachers and the staff help the kids and sort of pinpoint the kids that need help, pinpoint the ones who are doing great, but, you know, maybe need a little extra attention here or there. And we ended with things that we do outside of the classroom for the kids, the STEAM Expo, Pottsgrove Village, all that kind of stuff. So it was a fairly quick meeting, but it was just a nice way to sort of celebrate all the hard work that the curriculum team has done. And they work hard, without a doubt. So thank you. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Mrs. Custer. We would like to report out on our co-curricular and athletic committee community relations.
Question on the next two reports. Normally we report out when the minutes are done. Wait till next meeting.
I need to report some of the stuff. Most everything, yeah, we could have waited till next meeting, but it was just really an end-of-year type thing. But at the very end, there are some little caveats I'm going to need to see about getting board approval for. I'll skim real quick because the meeting minutes are next. We went over community relations. Obviously, one of the big goals we're going to be doing as a group, and obviously as Mrs. Dorenzo's position, is getting out there and reaching our community in a stronger light. We did that obviously with the Education Foundation, and we're going to continue to grow that. He has some lofty goals on the Education Foundation, especially since this was one of our first years. We actually had the little mini grants, which were all funded by Univest. So we're hoping to get a lot more of that going next year. We had a lot of, remember the $25,000 that the board gave to add to some co-curricular programs? We actually had like 30 different programs that were funded by those, and it reached like something like almost 200 and some children who were part of those programs. Now, 500 and some children and reached into those. That's one of the areas that we're probably going to come back to the board with, but we also have an ideas of how to get some, funding for it through outside sources and such, but we're going to try to make sure we keep those programs going. Then we obviously spoke about the athletic department. We asked in regards to how the new program for the probationary and with the new, and that actually went very well with both the athletic coaches and students as well as the co-curricular students. So that went very well. The two areas I actually did have to talk to you guys about is and I apologize because we usually don't like as a committee to bring things to the board, but we only have today's meeting. We're kind of at a loss here. We don't have another meeting at the end of June because we're approving everything tonight. So there are going to be some items that we're looking to the board to agree to pay for that are going to be part of Market Street. So they won't come out of any change with the budget and such like that. Obviously, you already know that we approved about $8,500-ish to do the bleachers. Now, there are 4 items that we've been working on, and obviously one of those is the Athletic Hall of Fame. We've discussed this pretty much the whole entire year. We've been going through back and forth, and I brought that to the board prior. But now's the time that if we're going to go forward with this program, we actually do need to authorize the program as a whole, plus also the price of getting the signage and such like that. Again, all of this is going to come from Market Street. So what we're going to be asking the board, and I'll make motions in the end, is we're going to be asking for approximately $5,140 to be used from Market Street. Of that, it's not a yearly, remember, when we use Market Street, it's pretty much a one-time type cost, as in this is just to make the banner and everything like that. The second thing we're going to be talking about the expenditures is the high school varsity baseball scoreboard. The scoreboard right now is in the shambles. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. It really has probably the oldest sign I believe we have left and throughout the entire campus. So we're going to be asking the board to approve $5745, again, out of Market Street. Then we have a couple other areas. We have Facility signage, obviously we have a lot of areas, you still see the parrot in some of these spots, and we want to try to get these done. We're looking for 13 aluminum signage for the stadium gates, restrooms, ticket booths, to try to clear all that up. That's going to be $782. And then lastly, and this I think goes to what we're actually trying to build with our community and our school. We want to try to build it as this is a campus, and this is a community campus. And so what we're trying to do is there's a couple of things. We want to make sure that we have the correct signage. As you see when you drive around many other different schools and different campuses you'll see around, you'll see the signs you'll know exactly when you're on Governor Mifflin School District, Springford School District. You'll know when you're there with these signage that is over on the light bulbs. So you'll know exactly when you're going through. One of the areas that I know we're going to be focusing on is, and Ashley probably knows more about this than I would ever, is the greatschools.org program. A lot of the realtors use that program in rating schools. Now, one of the main things on rating that school is going to be the community actually puts in, like little tidbits, reviews, and such like that. They take the scores, but you have to also have reviews from the community members. To do that, we're going to probably need to get more community involvement, and we're hoping to do that with that. In that realm, we're going to be asking for the replacement of these signs and creating these signs. It's going to be approximately $35, $16, $25 for those. So, what I'm actually asking the district, and we spoke about this, Scott and I, unfortunately Patty wasn't here, and we did discuss this in regards. We're going to ask the board, I'd like to make a motion to approve $15,184.42 to be used from Market Street to carry for these 4 items.
How much does that leave in Market Street? It's over 100, I think, right?
Right now, current Market Street money is $116,000 some odd. Obviously, this is going to be take down to about 101. We already have approved 8,500, so it's going to take us a little bit down, a little bit more than 90-some thousand. This particular year, we had approximately 25,800 came back in. That was one of the questions that we asked, of course, as into what are we looking back into the future money. And provided everything stays current, which it should, especially since the largest amount is our gym, which is at $13,000, and that's not going to really change any much. And plus, we have possible new avenues. We still haven't licensed out the turf field. We also are looking possibly at doing dugouts, and if we do dugouts in the baseball fields, that's more areas. And of course, the new school board that we're looking at could also be used for Market Street to provide more funds as well. So we're looking to probably try to gain over the 25,000. The school board, baseball school board. Scoreboard. What am I saying, school board? Scoreboard. Scoreboard. You guys, we're gonna be like the NASCAR. The scoreboard.
Thank you, yes?
Well, is also an area that we could use for funding.
Okay. Second. Cool.
You made a motion, I said.
All right, we have a motion by Al Leach and a second by Mr. Parker to expend Market Street funds on various projects that he outlined, the 4 projects he outlined as a result of the Athletics Co-Curriculum Community Relations Committee meeting that was held earlier this evening.
Today.
Okay. Yeah, you were really up against it, weren't you? Yeah. We're kidding. All right, well, as this was not on the agenda as an action item, at this time, we're going to open it up for public comment and see if we can get any takers on this. Nobody?
I have a quick question. We had previously approved, as part of the facilities meeting, the dugouts, and I want to say that was 14.
Bleachers. We voted the bleachers, not dugouts yet.
I thought we did the dugouts in our meeting.
No, bleachers.
Dugouts are part of the capital project.
Yeah, so could that be
there's 2 different
switched?
things. He's saying that they can license out the dugouts.
Okay.
He wasn't talking about.
Oh,
for the
I thought it was
advertising
to
for them.
make the dugout.
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? If not, a motion to approve would be in order. I'm sorry, Billy last. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? So ordered without objection. Thank you very much.
Is he done with his report? I do have a question about the report, though.
Please.
Oh, my mic's still on. You had mentioned earlier about, in your report, about our community relations goals, the goals for that position. Was there any discussion in regards to reaching out, addressing at all in one way or another, those leaving or in charter schools?
That was not discussed in regards to, no, what we discussed mainly in the community was like how the social media imprint, to increase that, to increase the communication, to increase the community involvement and such like that, not about students and charter schools.
Can we get some recommendations from the administration, perhaps in the August meeting, if that's not too soon, in how to research, look into the issue with students leaving charter schools and those students coming to our district already in charter schools, if there's anything we can do to reach out to them?
Mr. Parker, at our last end of May district office administrative, we discussed those pieces. And that was based on our conversation, our last board meeting. So we have discussed it internally. We're going to continue to discuss it. Some of our thoughts, and I'll just share with you now, is to, come up, if you will, with structures that we would do yearly regarding our charter school students, whether they're coming or going. So we would have a set protocols, if you will, that we would follow. So we talked about it initially, and we're going to continue to brainstorm. August might be a little quick, but I think we can get to you, toward the end of August or beginning of September with some more, at least initial thoughts. But we have had that preliminary conversation based on the last board meeting.
I appreciate that. I look forward to that, hearing about that.
Can I just make a request for that? And I don't know if you guys have already talked about this, but when it comes to cyber schools, most people don't know that the tuition isn't free. Most people don't understand that the school, the district is paying for these kids to go to these schools regardless of the cost. I just had a conversation with a fellow real estate agent who happens to live in Upper Pottsgrove, and on our ride to our settlement, he was asking me all kinds of questions, and one of them was, well, why are the taxes going up this year? And I explained to him, big part was cyber schools. He's like, well, why? They're free. I said, they're not. And he was completely blown away. And he's not alone. So I don't know if there's any way to advertise that somehow to the public, that these costs are really coming out of, if they're using the cyber schools for their kids, really coming out of their pockets and their neighbors' pockets. And then the people who don't know anything about cyber school, but just see the commercials on TV and that say it's free. I don't know. I just think some education would be in order to get people to understand. The 9 of us understand, everyone in this room understands, but we're the minority. And it just might, I don't know. I don't think it's going to stop people from putting their kids in cyber school, but it at least makes it a little more understandable to the rest as to why we struggle to balance a budget and keep it as low as possible every year. Just saying.
And I wonder if the best way to do that is through the media, which I believe the Post recently put something in about that, which I was thankful to see.
Thank you.
Policy Committee obviously met tonight. Mr. Parker, anything you want to just share or save it for August? Your call. Thank you very much for that.
I had a quick question, though. Okay, in regards, because I had it up, because from your meeting and such. A couple of things you guys were discussing was about adding electronic notes. This is one of the things we had this issue with a couple of years ago, and did you guys discuss as into who's going to monitor the electronic notes, which was the big issue, and who's going to store the electronic notes? I just want to make sure you guys were discussing that.
No.
That's the whole reason we purged all that stuff back then.
I think there was a line, and I'm not on the committee, I was just an interested observer this evening. I thought there was a line in the policy that indicated that the emails had to be sent to a known address, which is not specified at this time in the subject line. Is that correct? Did I read that?
They're going to be handled just like a note we would get, somebody walking in the door and just handing us a paper note, except it would be an electronic note from the parent or a doctor or any other source. There's really nothing special we have to do with it at this point because it's all within our email system. If we wanted to maintain a record of it, we could print it, but we don't keep those for an extended period of time, even the handwritten notes. But I don't think talking through it with the electronic age that we live in, it's both a convenience and a service that we can provide, and it's really not any added work to us handling a piece of paper. And we talked about security. There's really no way to know if that note was written by, the actual person that's handing us that note. So they both are fraught with opportunities for abuse if someone was really wanting to do that. So we just didn't see a big enough difference between the two systems, and it wasn't going to add a lot of work for us.
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up was because this actually came up years ago, and I guess the individual that was the one that was going to monitor felt that, well, now am I going to monitor? I'm going to do both. It was going to be more difficult. Obviously, things have changed over years.
And that's what we discussed. I raised the question of, well, discussed it 2 years ago, what's changed between then and now? The team, the administration team felt confident that they've been monitoring how technology's been used and so forth, and that they feel it's not foolproof, but like Dr. Harney said, similar to a handwritten note, it could be forged, but at any time, handwritten or electronic, it could be researched further if the administrator felt that was appropriate.
Another question was, we already have an issue with absenteeism, but I see on the policy you're increasing all of the notices as goes from 3 days to 4 days, 5 days to 6 days, 6 days to 8 days. Is that by law, or is that just by choice of why we're increasing them?
So there was a typing error on one of the lines in the policy. I believe it was a 3 and 4 day thing. So it's sticking to 3 unlawfuls. The first notice will be sent out. I too had a question because I want to see us getting more strict, if anything. Right. So that was a concern of mine. But how it was explained by Ms. Pasito was it's more of a logistical thing with mailing them out, and by the time they get it and this kind of thing. Plus, those that are in authority to present fines and/or community service are not pursuing it at that level anyway. So it just makes for a better working relationship with parents. It makes it, because otherwise they're getting 6 absences, 5 absences, you get 1, then 6, and it's piling up before they could even address it. So since our hands are tied anyway in regards to enforcement, it just made more sense to go this way.
Okay, are there any other questions on the policy committee meeting? All right. Very good. So that brings us to the next item, which is new business. Does anybody have any new business they would like to share with the board this evening?
The only new business I actually had was I do want to personally say thank you very much to our administrators, our teachers, our custodial staff, and every person, our instructional coaches, every single person from the top to the bottom for our school district. It is the only way that our community can have this fantastic schooling is because of all you people out there. You guys do an amazing job. It's a very hard job. It's a very thankless job. And I want to say thank you very much. You guys make a very safe and well-educated for our young students, so thank you.
Unusually, I'm going to introduce an item of new business tonight because it fits so well with what Mr. Leach mentioned, and that is to take a moment to recognize all the people, all the volunteers, and all the people that provide other services to us throughout our community on a daily basis, some with recognition, some without. I have in particular in mind one person in particular who comes to many of our meetings, who's always here for the community, and who this week, following our graduation, made a number of photographs available to the public for free that he took at the graduation. And we just like to say thank you to Muriel Dorothy Piles Lomek for her suggestion.
The pleasure was hers, I assure you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's been a little discussion via email, strike that, not discussion, but question and answer on email regarding security guards. And it's been kind of in the back of my mind how we are using the security guards, at least at the high school. And I think it was brought up by someone else, which kind of triggered it in my head. Can we get sent to us the contract and or procedures that are in place for the guards in preparation for what I would request to be a future conversation regarding that? Is that the most efficient use and best way to, I know it's just part of how we secure the buildings, but is that the best use of that? Just kind of something I think at least a couple of us want to hear more about.
We can surely do that. I know, you know, Mr. Nestor, I mean, basically explain, and maybe you want him to explain it again for the group, because the question was about a cost factor, and there was a couple that maybe I don't want to. Dave, do you mind just weighing in?
Well,
I think
if I
since
can
you brought
interrupt,
it up,
my question isn't specific, or mainly my issue isn't with cost. My bigger concern or question is the efficiency of what we have in place now for our security guards. And yes, does the cost justify that? But my main question is seeing what does their contract allow or expect and or our procedures allow and expect. That's my, at least personal, I mean, if others have questions on the budget part of that, that's fine.
That was pretty much the question that I was asking, was the cost, but it really pertains to what, and it was focused generally just on the staffing within the school and what their responsibilities are. And just from having students in the school, you know, gosh, a couple of years ago. And what you hear is not always the accurate picture. That's why I wanted a copy of the contract to just kind of read it for myself and understand what is the return on investment there? What are we actually getting for that particular service? I don't question having security. I'm all about security, having them at games and places where you have these large numbers of people attending, and that's fantastic. It's primarily just, you know, during that school day, what are the responsibilities? That was it. Thank you.
I guess I would need a little bit more information, to be honest with you, because we have Dr. Ziegler, one EPS agent, correct?
That is correct.
We have one, and the agent that we had for how many years do we have, Chris, before he got hurt?
2 or 3.
I mean, he was a solid factor in responsibility for the security of the high school, and he got injured breaking up a fight. In fact, it was his ACL, I believe.
That's correct.
I mean, so he was one who, and all of our agents, I'm not going to say he specifically, but they work hand in hand. So I guess I want to, I mean, if is it more than a job description? Is it a safety and security plan? Does it go to Dr. Harney and his crew? I'm just trying to get more, like more of a vision of that expectation that you want to report out, because at this point it's one person, Officer Slothauer, the administrative team, as far as that piece of safety and security, or do you want like external event security, or?
Right, no, I'm not talking about the SRO. We've seen that recently, the contract for that, and reviewed it closely. I'm talking about the security, I can't think of the name of the company that we have, the EPS. I would just like to see their current contract, and if there's any additional procedures in place, protocols, I don't know, but at least see the contract. Yeah.
Yeah, soup. Like, I can get that to you in the next couple of days.
That's fine.
You've been strangely quiet. Do you have any new business?
Actually, thank you for asking. I do, actually. I just wanted to share something with you. The Bureau of Special Education has reviewed the school district and charter school contingency fund applications for partial reimbursement under the school code. And extraordinary special education program expenses are then subsidized. Last year, we did not receive any money. In the past, we received quite a bit of money. This year, we received $101,384. So that was built into Mr. Nesser's budget that helped us, quite considerably for that reimbursement. So I wanted to share that with the board, that we did get some help there. I've been sharing with you really over the last 5 years regarding residency and our residency team. Dr. Harney heads that group. There's several support staff that work with him in this piece. This year, our potential savings for the district was $321,033. So that team continually, on due diligence on who's supposed to be in our district, has really, I should have the 5-year figures for you, but I bet we're approaching $2 million as far as having the right kids in our seats through that course. So I wanted to share that with you too, because I think that's another piece that you don't see that money, but it's a factor for us. And last but not least, the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness had school wellness winners, and I wanted to share that the Tier 1 recipient, which is the highest level of $1,100, went to Ringing Rocks. So we want to congratulate them. And we had Tier 3 winners, which was $900. That went to West Pottsgrove. And Tier 4, which was $800, went to the high school. So I just wanted to share with the board that Pottsgrove had 3 winners, our two elementaries, and the high school. So we want to, thank them for their due efforts as far as health and wellness, and we want to thank Pottstown Health and Wellness for recognizing that this year. That is all I have, sir.
Well, that's good news, so thank you for that. And thank you for your work on the residency program. That's a truly unsung story.
Well, I do not want to, and I don't want to miss their names. Liz Rakoff and our newest social worker, I knew it was Melissa, I didn't want to. They do a tremendous job. They are really the folks that put in the time and the effort. Kate is also very helpful in that regard. So I just want to make sure that they're recognized, because they are the folks that do an awful lot of work with that. And Bobby Oxenford does a tremendous job in the business office with that as well. So.
Very good. Well, much appreciated.
I forgot something. And it's a good thing, though. But because he mentioned awards, I do need to remind, I say thank you very much. I think this is going to be news to some individuals, that Pottsgrove actually was found to be the #1 in both the high school and the #1 in the middle school, again, for the recipient of the Pioneer Athletic Conference Sportsmanship Award for both high school and middle school, so we'll be receiving the plaques. So I wanted to congratulate the group for that as well.
Yep. Good.
I think applause is due for that. Absolutely. It certainly echoes back to part of our mission statement: well-rounded citizens, good citizens, and it doesn't get much better than being recognized by the Frontier Conference for our citizenship. So congratulations to everybody. All right, so we'll close out almost with public comment. Does anybody, you've turned down 2 opportunities so far, 3 actually. Is anybody going to chime in now? No takers still. All right, so motion to adjourn would be in order? Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. Thank you very much for playing. See you again next month.
company where we thought, you know, could done better and stuff like that. But when we did that,